Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture, the show where we discuss science, technology and culture in its myriad of forms. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone out there. Another exciting episode.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be talking about all those fun things around teleportation and time travel today, things that we like to talk about here, mainly because I think I've been watching too much Star Trek on Netflix lately. But before we get into that, just wanted to mention this will be the first episode that we're filming off of an iPhone 7, so hopefully it'll come out in the wash.
Milestones, Ben, milestones.
Exactly. My feed's being recorded in 4K, although I think the final product won't be because obviously your feed, Steve, over Skype isn't 4K. But when we get together and do one in person, we'll definitely upload it in its full 4K glory for the first time because we like doing our firsts here.
Absolutely.
Just before we get onto that topic too, and this is something you mentioned beforehand, was I got an email about my Yahoo account. I'd forgotten I even had one, that now I'm wondering I better go in there and make sure that nothing's been lifted out of the account. But another story, isn't it, of another big company, another big tech company getting hacked and details going everywhere.
Well, this is. We've spoken about it, I don't know how many times now, but I wonder if 2016 is maybe the year of peak hacking. I mean, at some stage, 500 million people, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And remember, if people use that as their primary email account, anyone who goes through those records can tell who you bank with, who you have insurance with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're getting to the point now where it's not going to be long before everyone has had some sort of detail hacked at some stage. And that means theoretically, I'm not suggesting that it's happening, but it means theoretically, at some stage, someone will be able to have data on everyone who's used the web. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, maybe the consolation is, does anyone use Yahoo anymore?
Well, that's right. I know I've got a Yahoo account, but I don't think I've checked it since 2012. So I don't think I even used it.
Yeah.
So.
I think I'm in the same boat there. All right, we'll get on to our main topics now. Teleportation we'll start with, which, beaming in Star Trek terminology. We'll start with this story from the ABC, teleportation of light particles across cities in China and Canada, a technological breakthrough. Essentially, scientists have shown they can teleport photons across a city, but they don't expect something akin to the Star Trek crew beaming from the planet's surface to the Enterprise, which obviously is a lot more complicated. This isn't necessarily anything new, though. They've been talking about this for a while, haven't they, with the being able to teleport particles from one place to another.
Yeah, and I guess the important thing to realise here is this is, I guess, technically it's quantum teleportation.
Yeah.
So quantum being at a very small level.
Yeah.
And quantum particles don't behave quite like they do when they're combined into humans and the world we see around us.
Yeah.
So, that's why this only applies to quantum particles. Doing the real thing with objects around us that we see today would be a lot more difficult, of course. But it shows that teleportation is possible, at least at a quantum level.
It might take us a while to get there, but I'm sure maybe they'll get to humans eventually.
Well, this has enormous implications. I mean, we're talking about security and, online. The fact that you can teleport particles like light means that you can create all sorts of systems that are faster than the ones we use today and also more secure. So that's really where this is going, although it's much more fun to talk about us teleporting around like Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely. just to clarify that exactly, I think the article had a pretty good description of it. Quantum teleportation is the ability to transfer information such as the properties or the quantum state of an atom, its energy, spin, motion, magnetic field, and other physical properties to another location without traveling in the space between them, which I thought was a pretty much a good description of it. But it's overcoming a lot of technical barriers, isn't it? It's just... and the fact that it's there's a Canadian team working on it and a Chinese team working on it is kind of cool as well. Opposite ends of the world kind of thing.
Yeah, there's lots of teams working on this sort of thing, because the other thing about this is that with quantum teleportation, if anyone intercepts any information transferred through quantum teleportation, instantly the two parties communicating will know that they've been intercepted.
Yeah.
And also the third person won't be able to get the answer, because that's the way quantum entanglement works.
Yeah, absolutely. They also mention quantum computers in this article as well, which maybe sort of link this in with some other topics where we've had current technologies kind of maturing to the point where it's getting as good as it can be. It's just becoming faster and more intense, to borrow the George Lucas term from a different medium. But you'd think a quantum computer would be the thing that would just take it to a different level entirely going forward. Yeah,
it's interesting. From what I've heard about quantum computers, they're infinitely more powerful than our current sort of binary system, but they're not necessarily faster in the same way. So there are certain calculations that a quantum computer can make that you'd never be able to do on a binary computer. Yeah. But there would still be room for our old style sort of binary systems, because apparently they're better at some tasks. But for really big mathematical tasks, for shifting information from one place to another and reinterpreting it, quantum computers are what you'd need.
Well, that'd be almost like the instantaneous transfer of huge amounts of data, which is an issue, I guess, in a world where we're handling so much of it.
Well, that's right. So if you can imagine that, you could shift basically quantum particles in a particular state, and the state that you teleport is effectively your information, just like we send ones and zeros now, but there's no space that they have to transverse, so it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
Then you can see how powerful potentially shifting information around this way could be. You shift huge amounts of data. And, I guess we all wonder if you've heard of the Square Kilometre Array telescope that's going to be operational from about 2025, 2030 for 25, 30 years. That is going to accumulate, I think, in a day more data than we could handle in a year now, or something ridiculous like that. So we are going to need systems that can shift huge amounts of data in ways that we can't possibly shift it or store it right now. And quantum computing and this sort of technology is all part of that.
We'll teleport our Word documents at the very least.
That's right. That'll be child's play, I'm sure.
Absolutely. All right, we'll move on to our next topic, also from the ABC. Time travel into the future is already possible. And we'll expand on this shortly, but I think what the first line of this article actually frame this in a way that I hadn't actually thought of, but totally makes sense. Time travel happens all the time. We're usually traveling smoothly into the future at the rate of 1 second per second, which is, of course, no one. So literally, we're time traveling all the time.
Exactly.
Which I thought, how sometimes, when someone puts it in a certain way and you go, oh, yeah, of course it is. That's the way it's supposed to be. But I think, obviously, there's the two types, which is into the future and into the past. But the into the future one is the one that we know is possible. And it's not, I don't know if you'd really call it time travel. It's more relative.
Yes.
Obviously,
that's right.
That's really what's happening based on Einstein's theories and that.
Well, that's right. So that's why we can't see any way really of going backwards in time. However, you can go forwards in time. There's a number of ways. that are fairly well known. One is you could orbit a supermassive object, which by orbiting that, time stays relative for you, but actually is going slower than it is for a place under not such gravitational effect. So when you go back to the normal place, time has travelled much faster there relative to you. And so all of those, whether it's going through a wormhole, and we talk about the curvature of space, simply you're travelling relatively differently to the general fabric of space and time. So that allows us potentially, theoretically, to travel into the future.
Which makes me wonder, is that actually time travel in the sense of how it's presented in the science fiction concepts that we see in movies and TV shows, Star Trek, for instance? Because that almost feels like it's not quite the traditional sense of what time travel is, because in the way it's presented in popular culture, it's you get into a machine, you press a button and you instantly arrive at a certain place, date and time, take away the travel to the past instance. But if you're traveling into the future, that's how they would present it. This to me seems more like not a trick, but a quirk of the way the universe works.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think, the traditional view has probably got more basis in science fiction.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the effect is the same.
Yeah.
If you could find a way to press a button and use any of those different methods of travelling into the future at a different rate from 1 second for 1 second, then definitely, you get the same effect. The interesting thing still is that I think recently they've sort of said that theoretically it's impossible to go backwards in time, but I don't think anyone wants to believe that. So I don't think that's going to kill off movies like Back to the Future anytime soon.
Or do you think it's just a limitation of what we know right now?
Well,
and saying that there may be the possibility that we could discover something that we don't know right now that could make it possible.
Well, who knows would be the answer. I don't know. I think theoretically, at least the math shows that it'd be very difficult to go backwards. But then I tend to think about it like a Tarantino film. So, if you look at Back to the Future, it was cut in the way, and you could even look at Pulp Fiction in the same way, or to see the effect. Back to the Future was cut as if Marty went backwards from 1983 to 1956.
Yeah.
But, well, no.
85 to 55, yeah.
85 and 55, sorry, what am I talking about? He went backwards. But in actual fact, he might have started in 55 and gone forwards.
Yeah, that's true.
So
actually, that would be an interesting interpretation of that film if they cut it that way.
Well, that's right. So you'd find it hard to explain how he got back there, but if it happened moving forwards, who knows? Sorry, but it could have been cut, and in the same way that Pulp Fiction is cut out of order. If you actually recut Pulp Fiction chronologically properly, it probably wouldn't make any sense, and that's relativity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there and bring it back for another episode. It's always good to talk about teleporting and time traveling our way through the cosmos, which is always good.
That's right. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You've got all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our videos and channels, and we'd appreciate that. Interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. Love to hear from you. And just visit our website. Recommend your friends there to visit there, and hopefully you'll enjoy the content that we produce on a regular basis. So that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.